Have you ever thrown away a piece of art that you were working on? Was it because you were terrified of the ugly phase? You are not alone. Even after doing over 1,000 art lessons, over 25 art books, over 650 YouTube videos, can I just tell you that I go through an ugly phase every single time. Here is some proof. These are all my pieces, for reals, right in their worst moments. And guess what? Every single one of them turned out pretty beautifully in the end. If you ever wanted to rip up your sketchbook or chuck your canvas out the window, and I'm sure you have, because we all have, this video is for you. So keep watching. My name is Karen Campbell, and I'm an art book author and founder of Awesome Art School. And as a late art bloomer, my mission is to help other Gen Xers and baby boomers become confident artists. It is never too late to become the artist you should have been. Now, back to the video. You are not alone. And I'm here to show you and to prove it and to reassure you is 1,000,000% normal. Not only is it something that should not be feared, but it's something to be completely expected. And I really do need to reassure you, be clear, look into my eyes. This does not mean that you're not good enough. It doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. It just literally means you're not done yet. That's all that it means. I can tell you with certainty that 100% of art goes through an ugly phase. And here's the worst part of the ugly phase, because it does get worse, is that the worst part of the ugliest ugly of all the stages happens at about 3/4 of the way through the finished piece. So after you spent hours, days on a piece, right when you're just about to turn the corner, that's when most people quit and they head to the bin. But truly, that 3/4 mark is the worst time to give up, because you're literally one step away from your breakthrough. So why do we give up? You're giving up because you're getting emotional and you're having a reaction to what you're seeing right now on the paper. And you're kind of freaking out about it, which is completely to be expected. And if you don't have the experience to know, you will give up every single time because it's super scary and you feel like a failure and you don't want to go on because you think you're just done and you can't do any better, and that's all you can kind of see at that moment. So totally understandable, super normal, but like this video is going to talk about how to get over that. Every time you quit, you need to remember, somehow make a note that you're actually robbing yourself of the opportunity to push through and see it to the end and see that you can do it. But the most important reason to never give up during the ugly phase, even though you're a wreck, even though you're super mad, even though you're disappointed, even though it looks like shit, is because you're letting it win. If you stop at the point, that's it. You've been defeated by the ugly phase. And guess what? You can do better than that, and you can defeat it instead. The only way to get through the ugly phase is to just acknowledge it. Just acknowledge it, because it's coming. What did I say at the beginning of the video? 100% of all art pieces, unless you're like a freaking genius or a magician, goes through an ugly phase. So just acknowledge it every time. Be like, oh, yep, here it is. Here it is. And actually what I do often at this point is I actually will take a picture and I will post it on social media, because I know so many people struggle with this. And I'll say, here's my ugly stage. Here you go. And it's terrible and it's hilarious. And actually a lot of my students do the same thing. They're like, here's the ugly stage, and that's your way of acknowledging it right before you start to bust through. It's a very powerful technique, and it helps you normalize your feelings about it, because you're taking away, you're kind of naming it to taming it. Here's the ugly phase. Yep, here it is. Look at it, process it. Do not freak out. Just process it objectively, and then go on to the next step, which is keep going anyway. Keep going, okay? If you don't keep going, the ugly phase wins, and we can't let it win. I know how hard that is. Easier said than done, right? So here are 3 ways. Number 1, have a sense of humor about it. You have to remember, this is just paper. There's so many important things in this world, like cancer, floods, tornadoes. Your art piece ain't one of them. I hate to disappoint, but it is not that important. It is just a piece of paper. So you could throw it in the trash, or you could just keep going because you got this. So just keep going. You have nothing real to lose. I already talked about taking a picture, which helps you name it to kind of tame it, acknowledge it, process it. And the last one is you need to slow down if it's really freaky, and either follow the lesson, keep following your teacher if you're following a tutorial, or if you're on your own, problem solve. You're going into problem solving mode. This is especially true for mixed media art, for which I am a mixed media artist, is that 90% of mixed media is about problem solving. It's how I got into a mess, how am I gonna navigate myself out of it? And the only way to do it is to try stuff. It's to rely on experience in the art projects that you've done in the past and put it into play right now. Plowing through those ugly phases and all those projects that came before you, that you are learning exactly what you can and cannot do, so that when you do the next project, you're armed with way more experience, know-how, and you've tried stuff out. And that is the best way to learn art, other than following a really good teacher. Okay, so you can teach yourself, but you can't teach yourself if you keep quitting and throwing your art away. It's like you're totally robbing yourself of that opportunity to learn. Even if it doesn't come out amazing, you can always take away something from a failed project. But honestly, it won't fail if you just keep going until you like it. That is the secret. Don't stop until you are happy. And there's always things that you can try or do to save the day. And I'm gonna show you right now, I think at least 10 examples. So let's go through each one. I'm gonna show you the ugly phase and how I was able to get out of them. And hopefully some of these tips and tricks will help you the next time you're stuck in the ugly phase and you're freaking out and you don't know what to do. Okay, so this girl is actually super embarrassed about, because the reference was so gorgeous and my drawing was so ugly. And she was really ugly, and I wasn't sure I was gonna be able to I just was like, am I gonna be able to bridge the gap between this ugly alien stage and something beautiful at the end? And luckily, I think I pulled it out, but it was just a matter of adding all of the colors, all of the layers. It's the shading that gives the dimension inside of the faces, so that's crucial. But the whole time I was, for the drawing portion of it, before I added color, I just was not convinced I was gonna be able to pull anything out. I really wasn't. And as a teacher, that's also like super embarrassing, because I'm like, what if this doesn't pan out? So luckily, between the color and the blending, which in alcohol markers is all up to layers and layers and layers. If you're not getting a streak-free look, it's because you need like 6 more layers. And then the shading, again, the dimensions, and then of course adding all the little details like the highlights at the end. I also had a huge boo-boo on her forehead, which you also can't see, which I was able to fix with the blending. All right, now this one is just plain scary. So like, if you're doing this at the first time, and this was freaking me out, you guys, this is a class. I was like, oh my God, this looks like, how am I gonna make that go from that scary alien phase to something that looks finished? It was dicey, and it was dicey almost the whole way through. And again, as the leader, it's also embarrassing. So I totally understand what it feels like to look at your work and judge it and be like, this looks like crap. How am I going to pull this off? Like, it's dicey. You are not alone if these are the feelings that are running through your mind when you're doing this. So with this project, I mean, I just had to keep going and going, and I'm going. It feels like it's like forever and ever and ever. It feels like there's no end to it. But I knew if I just didn't stop, I would get there eventually. Though this one was a real lesson for me personally in total perseverance. This is another gouache lesson. This is also, the last lesson was also gouache that you just saw. Both of these are for my Mixed Media Society. Same thing. Gouache is a weird medium. And when I was teaching this one, I was still pretty new to it, to be honest. And my students know I'm very transparent about my own skills. It was very much as the same as the project before, when it looked scary, like super scary, and like so far from becoming anything that would become a workable piece of art. And I was kind of in an internal freak out mode the whole time. But the same time, I knew, because I'm wicked experienced, that you just don't, sometimes it just takes a while. And it was just a matter of just trying things and keeping going, and trying things and keeping going. And luckily with gouache, as also with watercolors and alcohol markers, you can use color pencils at the end to really help take your piece to the next level. Fixes a lot of iffy places. So as a mixed media artist, when I mentioned problem solving, color pencils, pan pastels are great tools that you can use to help smooth over. Oh my, look at this ugly face. That's the thing. If you have to, you're either laughing or crying at your project, you're in the ugly phase. That's how you know that you have arrived. Luckily, with alcohol markers, I have the most experience of all mediums, so I know I can get there. When I was working in gouache, I was hoping it would be like other mediums, where if I just hung in there long enough and added enough layers, I could pull it off, which ended up being true. But with alcohol markers and this specific project, this is for my Celtic Collective Art Club, I knew it would just need more layers. That's all alcohol markers need, is many more layers. Any of my students watching, which hopefully are a lot of you, you can do it. It's alcohol markers, just layers. And the beauty of blending with markers is also go to lighter colors to blend. That way you're not darkening up any areas that you don't want to be more in depth. This one is also coupled with gouache, which is a magical combination. I just did a video on that a few weeks ago. If you want to marry alcohol markers and gouache, very surprising, very, very cool. Oh, this Marilyn Monroe, this was for Mixed Media Society. The ugly phase was real because I used gel sticks. And when I took my, look, she looks gross. When I sealed her, I usually use gelatos, and I used King art gel things instead, and not good things were going on with it. Instead of magically blending what gelatos do, it moved it all. See how disgusting that brown area is? It was gross. And I knew I could pull it out because I've done it. This is using my hamburger layering system. So I knew I could get it to where I need to be. But if you're a student and you've never done one of my hamburger projects before, you don't know that we can pull this off. You're just thinking crap, I just ruined Marilyn's entire face. And that's a valid fear because it looks disgusting. It looks absolutely disgusting. So with the hamburger system, you can Google it here on YouTube. You'll find a million of my videos, but you basically seal and then you do all of your work with pigment pens. I love Faber-Castell Pit pens. This one is also a hamburger, also in the Mixed Media Society, and the same thing. So this time I am using gelatos, but even though this is the correct art supply, you could see it was not looking so good. So if that's your first experience with me or doing a project adding shading, you're just it's disgusting. So again, once we seal, we do the gel sticks, gelatos, preferably if you can afford them. They're not that expensive, but people like to save money and they get the gel sticks and they're just not quite right. Then you seal, it blends it nicely. Then you do all of your work with the pit pens. You can add further shading. You can add way more dimension safely, nicely, slowly with all your pigment pens. It's magical. And then you can seal again. And you saw me applying the very final layer of varnish there on top. So that's also a hamburger, again, from my Mixed Media Society. But she went from yuck to gorgeous Art Deco dame with just following through that process. And all my students, I give them that mixed media hamburger recipe that they just need to follow. So this is another ugly face. The marker ugly faces are actually my favorite because they're so dramatic and ridiculous looking. So again, if you're a first-time student, you're like, what is this? Is this a superhero? What is happening? And she still, so this was all alcohol markers. So she still has quite a lot of severe shading right there. So in this lesson, this is also for my Celtic Collective Fantasy Club, I end up using pan pastels to smooth over some of those more aggressively demarcated areas of dimension and depth. This is where I take my mixed media experience and introduce it into everything I'm working on throughout all my 3 clubs at Awesome Art School, because there's always something you can do to help. There's always something you can do. There's some trick. It's just learning and having an experience to know what all the different art supplies that marry together really nicely and how they work together to know how to do it. So in this case, our pan pastels took super sharp, severe limes and mashed them and made them into this glowing, gorgeous skin tone effect. So yeah, so alcohol markers, you can blend them with lots of things. Okay, this one is so cute. It is the ugly phase, but she's actually still kind of cute. And this is also can be very scary because you're thinking like, how is something going to look pretty when this looks so stupid and ridiculous at this point? So again, very easy place that it's easy to get defeated and thinking that you're not a good artist when you're just at those early sketching stages. But one thing, this is an acoustic piece, by the way, so I was embedding little pearls into the melted wax. This is also a lesson in my mixed media society. I find with the ugly stage arriving at about 3/4 of the way through every project, sometimes these things don't make the turnaround. They don't turn the corner until the last minute, which is why I'm showing you the ugly stage, but also how I kind of bring it home at the end. It's usually just those very final touches that really, like putting the eyelashes on, or, getting the last touch of her lipstick, or in this case, adhering the quote. Like, it doesn't come all together until the last final moves that you have. This one is classic because I was teaching this one live and not recorded. So this can also be very dicey. I teach live every month in all of my clubs, but that's a scary stage sometimes for me, especially in watercolor. It can be very dramatic. I tend to go really bold and dark. And if you're a student following along and you're doing the same bold and dark, that can feel super scary. So sorry, students, if that's happening. But just like with a lot of mixed media projects, it's the combination of materials and how you put them all together that makes it work in the end. So adding eyelashes with a special pen, that makes it a lot easier. My Pentel Pocket brush pen. Using these highlights, using this little dropper that I like to use, is a way to level this up, add some nice highlights. And if you're not using masking fluid or Frisket to preserve the white of the paper, like a classic traditional watercolorist would do, as a mixed media instructor, you can just throw on some whites and you're good to go. Oh my, this is a Kelpie, which is a shape-shifting horse, Celtic Collective Club, which Lucy and I drew for, this is for our Outlander Experience course. That horse, took us 45 minutes to draw the horse's head. 45 minutes. I think it took us 45 minutes to finish this in watercolor. It was so bad. Our horses were so ugly for so long. And we're just laughing and oh God, and laughing and oh God. But when you're teaching live, you don't have time you can't throw this in a ball and put it in the garbage. You have to keep persevering. You have people watching you. If the pressure is on. So if you're ever really struggling, just think, hey, at least you're not teaching live right now and there aren't a whole bunch of people watching you and following with you. That maybe will help you to realize it's okay. You can take all the time you want and no one is watching. But that was a case of perseverance. We had no choice but to figure out how to draw that stupid horse's head and keep going. And then the rest was actually so easy and came along so fast. So this is just layers, systematic layers of watercolors using the same color, by the way, the whole time. All right. Enough about the Kelpie. This geisha was very similar to, look at how crazy she looks. She looks crazy, especially if I had zoomed in there. She looks really crazy. This is also mixed media, which is the same as the other showgirl that I showed before, also taught live. And when you don't have all your colors in there yet, I teach super systematically. Step 1, we're doing this. We're doing all the reds at once, and then we're doing all the blues. And that's why she looked so crazy. So in this one, it was just a matter of keeping going. That's if there's one thing I need to drill into your brain is don't give up and just keep going. Like, you have to just keep going. If you're staring at an ugly face and you're gonna go freak out, don't freak out. Just remember, just keep going. So you don't let that ugly phase win, okay? Just keep going with your colors. Keep thinking about, what can I do now? If I don't like it, what can I do next so that I will? And if you put those between your perseverance and using different art supplies to level up, you will do great, I promise. All right, if you haven't met my buddy Bob Ross, he is the king of chill, as I'm sure you all know. If you don't know who Bob Ross is, and actually my parents are baby boomers and they didn't know who he was, which I was shocked. Please go Google him. He is the king of chill. He's the king of making magic and happy little trees out of his enormous mistakes as he's publicly teaching on television for a million years. Okay, so before you go, I do want to let you know that Bob and I are here for you. A few years ago, I put together a 5-page PDF that would help my students break through these emotional blocks, these blocks that come up when you're freaking out that you've made a mess instead of a masterpiece. Because again, that's what leads you to turning the page. That's what leads people to quit doing art altogether. That's what leads people to throw their art pieces in the trash. So I've come up with 5 pages of stellar Bob Ross quotes and advice, coupled with my own for each individual issue. And there's so many issues: insecurity, doubt, and skills versus talent, scared of the blank page, on and on. So I have a 5-page resource. I call it kick in the pants. It's Karen's kick in the pants and Bob's lovely, calm language. If you would like it, it's 5 pages. Just let me know. If you just say, I want the kick in the pants resource. If you're a club member or you've already opted into my YouTube and cheat sheet neat suite, this is in there already, in addition to 38 other PDFs that I've prepared. Download it and keep it close. Print it out, laminate them, and keep it close to you while you're arting. Because the next time you're ready to quit and put your art in the bin, you'll have something that will talk you off the ledge. If no one's told you this already, you can do this. You got this. You're not failing, you're learning. And that ugly phase is just part of the process. Keep going. I'm cheering you on. I'm Karen Campbell. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more honest, unfiltered feedback and ways to make art that you are so proud of. And if you're wondering what to do now, click this video and you will have some super duper fun today.